Hey everybody, so in this video, we're going to go through the process of reading form fields and form data out of PDFs using Python. So if you're familiar with Python and PDFs, odds are what you're doing is you're opening up a bunch of PDFs and you're extracting the text out of it in order to load those documents into something like a large language model for training or whatever you're doing with them. So, but what we want to cover is we want to cover form fields. So it is very easy in Adobe Acrobat to create fillable forms. And so you're going to see forms that are out there that they're filled out with things like radio buttons, text fields, checkboxes, everything that goes in a normal form, but then it's saved as a PDF. Now, the normal processes in Python that you use to extract the text, which I'm going to show you in this video, do not pick up the form field. So if we look at a sample document that I put together this morning, this area up here for my electronic unicycle hockey registration form, we have text. And this, using the processes that you would normally use in Python for opening up and reading a PDF, you would get this text, but all of these fields, like these radio buttons, they would be invisible. And you would get the text for all of these fields, but you wouldn't actually get the value of the checkboxes. So what we're going to do is, in this video, this is going to be a quick start guide. I'm going to have another series of videos that takes you through an entire process of reading these in and putting it in the database and creating an API that allows you to upload PDFs that you read. But what we want to do here is we just want to kind of go through the basics of using PyPDF2 to open a PDF file and read it, and especially reading out these form fields. So the first thing I want to do is open up my PyCharm. Now that's what I use as my IDE. I like it the best. You can use Visual Studio Code. I just absolutely like working with PyCharm. So what I'm going to do is I am going to create a new project, and we're just going to call it Read PDF. And it's just going to be a simple, pure Python project. So I'm going to create that. Okay, so now I have a very simple, pure Python project. I need to create my main.py. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here. I'm going to say new file, and I'm going to create main.py. Okay, so now I have my Python file in my environment. And since we're going to be using PyPDF2, we need to install it. So I am going to go down to here to my terminal, start up a terminal, and then I'm just going to do a pip install of PyPDF2. Okay, so we've now installed PyPDF2, and you see that we installed version 3.0.1. This is actually kind of important because there's a lot of features in the earlier versions of PyPDF that are now depreciated. So we're using the newest version as of October 2023. So as long as you have 3.01 or above, you're going to be good. So we have our Python file. The first thing we need to do is we need to import it. So I'm just going to type in import. And now the capitalization changes here. So we're going to import PyPDF2. And notice that it is the only thing that is lowercase in this case, let me verify, is the Y in PyPDF2. So now once we've done this, we now have our library installed. So what I'm going to do is go back to my form. So I have this form over here filled out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it with my changes. And right now it's EUC hockey form blank. I am going to call it EUC hockey form filled. Okay, so now that we have a filled in PDF that we want to load, what we want to do is import a few more things. So we're going to say from PyPDF2 import PdfReader. Okay, so this is what we need to get started. So the next thing I want to do is I want to create a path that is the path to that file we just created. So I'm going to say path equals, and then I'm just going to paste this in. So it's the location where we just filled in that document. So we called it EUC hockey form filled.pdf. Okay, so now that we have a path to it, we need to open it. So the way we're going to open it is we're going to say PDF equals open path, and then we need to open it for read and binary. So now this is going to open the file, and it's going to take that entire file as a binary, and it's going to bring it into the PDF variable. Now what we need to do is we're going to create reader equals PyPDF2.PDFReader and then PDF. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run it. Okay, so it did nothing, or it did nothing that I can actually see it do. Now what I want to do is I want to get some of the metadata information from the PDF. Now, just so you can see, so this is the original document. So under properties, if I go to file properties, you're going to see I added a title, an author, a subject, and I can add these other things, and I can even add additional metadata if I want to put in. I have a description here for registration form, and I could even put keywords in here. So when I created these properties, it added them to the PDF. And now what I want to do is I want to get access to that information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say info equals reader.metadata. So all I'm going to do at this point is I'm just going to print it. I'm going to say print info, and let's see what we got. So I'm going to save it, rerun it. Okay, so as soon as I did that, you see that this info that came out is the information. It's got the author, it's got the creation date, the modification date, the producer, the subject, and the title. So at this point, what I can do, if I want to, is I could do it this way. I could say print info and then title. And now when I run it, this is the title. So this is the fastest way to get the metadata that you need from the PDF. So that's the first thing that we want to do. Now the next thing that we want to do is count the number of pages. So in order to do that, we just want to say print reader or length of reader dot pages. And when I run this, you see we have a 2-page document. Okay, so it's as easy as that. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to extract some text out of it. So in this case, I'm going to say print, we're going to go reader dot pages. Now you have to work with each page individually. So I'm going to say reader dot pages and then extract text. And when I do it this way, so in this case, you notice that what it did is it grabbed all the text. But now if you look at it closely, you see that there it says season fall, winter 2024, summer 2024, but you don't actually see any of the field values. Now, if we wanted to, what we could do is we could loop through each of the pages, grab all of the text, and put that in a list. So why don't we do that? I'm going to pull this out right now, and I'm going to create a list called results. And I'm just going to make that a list. Now I'm going to say for I in range from 0 to length of reader pages. Then I'm going to say text equals reader pages I dot extract text. And then we'll go results dot append text. Okay, so this is going to loop through each of the pages. And then if I type in here print results, and when I run it, we created this list. So you see here we have this list, and we have the brackets, and we have each of the pages, and basically it's created this as an array, and we can work with it that way. Now, Unfortunately, this is not actually what we're trying to accomplish here. What we want to accomplish is we want to get all of the form fields. So we want to get all the fields in the forms. So that's the key. And then we want the value. So we want what was filled into the form. So I'm going to clear this out. So I'm going to create a function here because it's something I'm going to want to use in one of the other videos. We could have just continued the way we were operating, but in this case, I think it's going to be easier for us to create a new function. We're going to call it extract form values. So I'm going to say def to define it, extract form values. And we're going to pass in this path. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to open the file, and then we're going to read it, then we're going to loop through it. So I'm going to say with open path, and then we're opening it as to read binary, and then we're going to call it as file. So this is going to open it, and then we're going to go from here. So then we're going to, first thing we want to do is check to see if we've got any fields. And if we don't, we're just going to return. So we're going to say if not reader.get fields. Then we're just going to return. So in this case, it just turned out we just didn't have any fields. So now what we want to do is assume that we got some fields. So if we get to this point and we didn't return, we know that there's going to be some fields. So I'm going to say form fields equal reader dot get fields. Okay, so now we're reading all the fields into a list called form fields. So now what I need to do is just create a temporary variable. So I'm going to say field values. I'm just going to make that a dictionary. And then what next thing we want to do is we want to loop through all those fields that we just got into our form fields object or list. And we're going to loop through each one of them, and we're going to create the value that we're going to return. So in this case, I'm going to say for field name, field value, or field data, in form fields dot items. Okay, so we're going to loop through each of the items, and then we're going to say field values field name, oops, equals field data dot get. We're getting the value, and then if there isn't one, we're returning none. And then we're going to go return field values. So field values is actually going to be a dictionary, and it is going to have one key value pair for every item that was in the PDF form. So all the form fields are going to create a key value pair with their value. Okay, so let's try running this. We've already got our path set, so the next thing we're going to do is just go form values equals extract form values and then path. So all we're doing here is we are calling our function that we just created, the one called extract form values, and now we're calling it, and then what we want to do is let's just print it out. So we're going to say for field value in form values dot items, and let's just print it out. So this is the field name. And then value. And that's all we need to do. All right, so let me save this. And now let me run it. Okay, so it returned something. So let's see what it returned. Let me expand this a little bit. Okay, so you see that what it did when we got to this part of the code is now we've looped through, and we have a field called season. The value selected was winter 24. We have a skill level, which is beginner. We have weekday mornings is not selected. So let's look at what each of these are. So these first two fields are radio buttons. So we returned winter 24 by selecting that radio button. We select beginner from that radio button. Now these next fields, the ones that start with weekday morning, Saturday, and Sunday, these are the checkboxes. So if a checkbox is unchecked, you see it returns off. If a checkbox is checked, you see it returns yes. Okay, so these are our checkboxes. Now, if we go down any further, these were the fields in the forms. So we had first name, last name, address, city, state, zip, mobile phone, email, and birth date. So all of these got filled with the data that was actually in the form. So now what you see is we have two different things we can do. One is we can pull all of the text out of the PDF, which is great for when you've got a bunch of PDFs that are just the exports of documents. But if we have a situation where we have a bunch of people submit the same document with different forms filled in, this is a way for us to go through and grab all of the form fields out of the form so that we can put them in our database, work with them however we need to. So this is your quick introduction on how to read form fields out of a PDF. If you go back to our channel, hit subscribe, hit like, do whatever you need to do so I get more views. And then you can go through the full course where we're actually going to create an API using Fast API to be able to upload PDF files, then extract all the form fields out of them, and then put it in a database. So that's our next project. But right now, hopefully this got you started with reading form fields out of a PDF file.